time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing that. I've been making loot since like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, XL, and Huber, way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the truth. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof. You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go. Yeah.
All these brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep waves by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Cold, these brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep waves by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Ride or die, 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 ride or die. Cold, these brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep waves by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta ride or die.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah. This is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 and the kidney one. My girl, and say, this is.
Oh, this movie is good. I'm enjoying this movie. You know, but the only thing is, the people that were serving the popcorn, they wasn't wearing masks. Even wasn't even wearing gloves. And to tell you the truth, I think this person is too close to me over here. I'm not even talking about that one. And they coughing and nobody's wearing the glove. I had my mask glove. You know, I'll be gloved up, masked up, got my sanitizer, everything, my soap and water, you name it. But since I have to get up out of here and I don't want no germs or nothing like that, because, you know, I got to get to the Lisa Baxter Show because this is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 in the kidney world. Hello, happy Sunday. Oh, man, I got a couple things to share with you before I start the show. Oh, my sweet, beautiful nephew, Patrick Burno, gave me this beautiful card Yeah, I thought it was so lovely. I even posted it on Facebook and everything. And you know, the baby, he had to leave another car in here, the truck or whatever you want to call it, list. Zoom, zoom, broom, broom. All right. These are the little masks for the little kids, the little babies and stuff that go out, you know. So I wanted you to see that because who is that? One of the stores, one of the famous stores are selling these, but I got it from a health fair. Okay, I got it from a health fair. And let me see. These cough drops here from the bees, I'm going to put in the chat. But they are all natural and they have honey in it and mentholyptus. And they added one with lemon. Very good and soothing for the throat. I've been eating the regular ones that they had for years since I was a teenager. So you know how many years that was ago. And I found that this vitamin C thing is a good thing to help you when you're having a little sore throat or you're feeling a little beat up, you know, a little ran down and got a little cold or something going on or whatever it is. You know how it is sleeping with the air conditioner, the fan right under you. You can catch a cold or something. So let me get into the show. Let me get right into it. You guys are nice and patient. Okay, let me see if I can give my guest justice because she wears so many hats. We're going to have to break some of them jobs down. But I have tonight on the show, all right, I have Lisa Rochford. Oh, man, she's an educator, a teacher, assistant principal, a director of capacity for builders for the Office of the Community School Support, professional development. All right. I like to try to break that down. But she does a lot of great, good work with communities. And she used to be a principal, but I have her on the show. I had a husband before. Okay. And I just want to introduce her. Welcome to the show, Lisa Rochford. Yes. Hey.
Hey, namesake, how are you?
Oh, alive and kicking, girl, alive and kicking. Here's
Oh
to
my
you
God.
and cheers to you. Yeah,
Cheers
I got
to
it
you as
all
well.
over here. Woo! You know, I gotta have my water and everything.
Yes, I don't think I've ever had quite an introduction, so I'm loving that intro that you just gave me. So thank you. I was
It's all
excited.
true. It's
Hmm.
all true. You are so welcome, and it is all so true. It is also true. Okay, now as I welcome you to the show, what I'd like to know, I like to break your jobs down. So you had a couple of jobs with the Department of Education. You know, we used to call it Board of Ed, so now they call it Department of Ed in New York City at that. So let's break some of your jobs down. You know, you can start from any one of the
Sure,
positions, from the teacher, the principal. I know
sure.
you was a principal, assistant principal. You're the community person now. So I ain't mad at you. Bring
Thank
it.
you. Yes, so blessed to be here. Thank you. Yes, and for asking me just to come in. So I could take it all the way back. I'll do the three B's. So I'm Barbados born, Brooklyn raised and bred, and now residing in beautiful Baldwin, Long Island. So clearly, and I went to Brockport, SUNY Brockport. So I must have a thing for B's. I love alliteration, but the B is for real. And my last name, even my former last name that comes up, Bryce, was actually my last name. So I was a B like you, Lisa. So that's a little bit about me, like sort of like this kid that came, from an island about third grade and was educated all throughout the public education system, right? From third grade all the way, even going to SUNY in my undergrad years for college. And so I honestly did not want to be anything education. I went to school for dance. I went to Philippa Duke Schuyler. I started dancing more professionally there. Shout out to Schuyler, my dance teacher, Miss Lonnie. And she just opened the door for us from like dancing all throughout. And I had a love for it. But I did go to a very academic high school, Midwood High School at Brooklyn College. So there wasn't really like a way out for me, sort of an academic. So fast forward, I did dance and dance education in undergrad, came back home, and thought I was going to be with Garth Fagan on Broadway doing my Lion King, stint there, and had these big plans, and ran into at Kings Plaza a dear friend who told me about an organization, Teach for America. And just shout out to TFA, who non-traditionally took us in for people who just wanted to teach. So I went to see my homies Tamika's classroom up in the Heights, saw what she was doing there, and got really inspired to say, I could do this for 2 years. And here I am 20 something plus years later, still in the field of education. And I've stepped in and stepped out. Like you said, I've been with the DOE, I've been with charter, private, for profits, but always under the vein of education. So started as a teacher. Everything I've done has been non-traditional as well. So teacher, stayed in that, and then did New Leaders for New Schools, which is another national principal training organization. Went through New Leaders and got to see a national landscape of education for like urban marginalized communities from New Orleans, Maryland. I mean, we were all over the country just looking at how education was affecting communities of color and with kids that look like me, and I wanted to do that. So through teaching, through coaching, I think you mentioned like coaching, particularly in literacy, I decided I wanted to write under the Bloomberg's administration. Many of you may know they were truncating schools or closing the larger schools to start. And that's where I got my start to really be competitive and write an application for my school. First application was denied. So I went to a public school. I actually wanted to do a charter school that was really around financial literacy. I wanted to do like an entrepreneurial school. It was called Yes. I wrote the application, had a planning board. And I don't know, maybe it was too progressive. I was like, I thought Bloomberg would like it, but here and behold, it gave me a year to be in the for-profit education world. And then I came back and rewrote, and that application was accepted, and it was more around social emotional supports. And so that's where I landed as a principal. And fast forward now, I support principals and community school directors, is what you're asking me, within the Office of Community Schools. And that is another mayoral initiative that goes, that like we started with like 41 and now we're at 267 to scale again to like 292. We're adding another 100, but this is also a national movement, community schools, where it's all the wraparound services are provided within and housed within the schools. We're on all 5 boroughs, and I get to lead professional development. So that's my director of capacity building role currently, that I get to service and provide professional supports.
Well, that's a lot. And you've done a lot, and you put time in. I mean, sometimes, people can get afraid of a position or not go higher in a position, stay in one position. But, sometimes you see opportunity, or opportunity comes to you and you get that chance and you start to move up the ladder. You hear things. Well, I know when you work with a company, you hear things inside the company that outside people don't hear. So you get a chance to get the job first sometimes. You know what I mean? But I'm glad to see that you kept your job and that you have such a love and a passion for the community, because the community needs so much help and so much love. People of color, poor people, period. And there are many families and schools and children out there that need that kind of hope and direction, to know that the school system that care about them enough to send some help their direction. So you're the one that's sending it, and you're the one that's doing it and giving it. That I called you the community whisperer, because you're getting things done and stuff are changing in these communities. So well, what's the most difficult thing about your job? And then tell me, what is one of the best things you've done with this job that you have?
Loaded question.
Loaded, huh?
Difficult.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Not right in your face. I'm with it.
I ain't mad at you. Come on.
I was a community school director, and I worked in that position in a year. So I'm like uniquely positioned sort of on both sides, central office, as well as being like community-based and placed with a CBO. I think the most difficult thing that I can see from my positionality is often you have a lot of community-based organizations. I think we have over 80, from CAMA to YMCA, Catholic Charity, you name. I mean, there's 80 named within supporting schools, Partnership with Children, Center for Supportive Schools. I could go down the list. TLP. Everyone has like their own like way about supporting a school, right? Unique way. And then I'm charged with kind of giving a universal like needs assessment, asset assessment, and like really being fine-tuned on what's going to be the best professional development to shift school culture and shift like students learning and access to families. And so with that, like a lot of the asset mapping, like I think that the former chancellor would say something like, when you've seen one community school, you've only seen one community school. And I would have like dissonance with that, because it's like there is a model, right? There's a model that that we all follow. There's 4 pillars, that we follow. We really value community engagement. We value family empowerment. We value collaborative learning, and we value like health, right? And wraparound support. So every school should show that, but their own way. Every school, if you've ever been to a DOE school, has its own unique way of doing things. So imagine professionally developing 267 individuals, 267 principals, 267 APs, depending on who they send, social workers. Then you have to think the other layer of how many of those schools have students with temporary housing, have their own unique like challenges. And then how does the CBO go about supporting the school? So I think that from my positionality gets hard to be the Uber like developer of all that and trying to tap in to like all the niche needs, So yeah. That's the challenge. The beauty in it, you can always take a challenge and make an opportunity. Elder, my husband, Paris, always talk about what's the opportunity? What's the opportunity? So for me, I think this year COVID climate really gave us a unique opportunity to really pause and to listen, right? It was still noise, but to really pause and listen. And so I did a series of empathy interviews. Again, I was saying like, how do you use it as like leverage? And so really to listen to communities, convene people, and really hear like what they were seeing, what was the need. No, I'm not giving a bunch of book bags if really what parents need are more mental health supports. You know what I'm saying? Like if you need a pantry versus, so we just really took an opportunity to listen and pause. And I think the unique situation presented itself to do that. So I think the blessing and the way that like makes me have joy is like, I'm looking at a 3-year trajectory now to be like, whatever the legacy is from this pandemic, panorama, whatever you want to call it, like, you know what I mean? To really plan forward to what it's going to be unique for schools. So a lot of schools are going to lean into like a problem of practice, almost like case study. So it's developed from them within a different framework now that's like anti-racism. It's all about diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging, and really using that totally to frame social emotional learning as well, because we know children are going to re-enter school, families, severe trauma. We don't like, this is what's happening. This is what we're hearing. And we've heard from the empathy interviews. So to really wrap our arms around that within that framework, and for people to work through their own problems of practices through like a plan, do, study, act cycle, so to speak. So that's the best way I could summarize. So it's been a good time to pause. So we're not on this race to kind of like pump out learning back to back to back, but really listen, take stock, and then really have people lead as adult learners their own professional learning.
Well, you took the pandemic and the issues of it, and you said, what can I do with this while we're sitting here and we're waiting or what have you? You took it and you turned it around to find out what the community need, because you had a chance more to hear them more, because I guess everybody was home. We were all scared and dealing with this thing. And, people are wondering a lot of stuff. So you took time to answer some of those questions or put some things out there that they would need, and to listen and then put it out there rather, is what you're trying to say.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Listening and learning stance. I think often we don't listen, like truly hear people and truly listen to what people have to say. And there's a difference, right? Active listening and hearing. There's two different, there's a way to do that. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that we had a chance to actually listen.
Okay. All right. Now, okay. You now in your job, when you're dealing with youth or families, have you dealt with diabetes or obesity? Because those things can lead to other illnesses, kidney disease, kidney failure, stuff like that, and so much other things, for the children,
Yeah. So one of the pillars I think I mentioned was the health and wellness. To my surprise, I didn't realize how many students and families love like culinary arts. Right? Like loved culinary arts. And so some partnerships like with City Arts and other places actually have cooking like with a wellness piece. And so this idea of like the soul food for the soul, but like doing twist on how to have healthy living, right? We knew asthma was a huge thing, as like that's actually like the prevailing like number one reason we've realized students are chronically absent. The asthma, like that is like across like all communities. And so like understanding how to get that also, like foods that can trigger like climate, different things that can like be a little bit more proactive. But to your point, it really is about like changing and addressing the diet. And often I found like the cook clubs, the culinary arts programs were the ways to talk about it. And then also the wellness piece of like, are we medicating through food? You know, like this pandemic, people will tell you they went up the scale, right? And so trying to figure out ways of how we're like not like looking at food and from a different perspective. And often we know we convene around food as folks of color, right? Like it's not just Thanksgiving, we have Sunday dinners, we got all these other times that we eat.
Okay.
So like, you know, how do we, you can still have your candy yams and whatever, but you may have to just add, you know, in your collard greens for turkey, we're not going to use other fats.
Give us a reason to eat, you know, you don't take much.
So, yeah, I think it's about that, like really the orientation to food and eating. But I found the culinary arts programs to be what really talked about. You can almost like, it's not sneaking the learning, but underpin the actual cooking and the experience of children and their families going through cooking with like just giving a different like perspective. You know, like you put Crystal Light instead of using the Kool-Aid, like just different things, or Tang or the other like acidic and sugary juices. To have, because everyone doesn't want to necessarily drink water, but you can substitute water and have it in between, you know, with other things that are a little less sugar, sugar like infused, so to speak, or with the high corn syrup and all the different things like that. But that is one of our pillars. Like wellness is a huge pillar, and food and the health piece is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know how to cook differently. And sometimes they say this is a tradition, or we've been eating like this for years, nobody died, and this and that. And then you look in your history and you got heart disease all up in the family. You got all kind of illnesses running up in the family. But if you learn how to cook, because we had to do that even with our job. We had to do mental health workshops because of what the pandemic has done. We had to do things that dealing with exercise, whether it was Zoom or spaced out in the park. You know, everybody's spaced out in the park where they can still do the exercise. And if they were elderly or seniors, they had to learn. I did chair and different exercise. I even did that on my show as well, as different exercise people can do. Maybe they were in a walker or something like that, or had a cane. So I tried to get exercises even with those things. You trying to do so many things, like you said, partner with different people. Maybe I don't do this, but this place over here does that, and they're in the community, or they're willing to help or be a resource to us. And that's what you need when you work in a program or in a place. You need other resources around you to help things to get going that you can't actually do yourself. And my hat off to you and everything off to you, and my glasses up to you too. You know, that you partnered with, well, you said over 80 programs, and I collect resources. So I love that, and I even collect some from all around the world. But I love the fact that you seen what the families and the children needed, you adopted it, and you used it. And from what I see, even in your biography, that you've changed communities. How have you changed some of those communities for the better, you would or could say?
So to God be the glory. I don't think it's me, so I'm gonna say that.
God be the glory.
God be the glory, right? And one of the viewers graciously said, one of the queens on the line said about not even just communities of color. I want to honor that comment that came through. The pandemic, because of the emotion and all the social and all the trauma, probably how folks oriented to food, like I was saying, to medicate, self-medicate, is one of the things of like retraining sort of the brain, right? A lot of us go from that amygdala brain, like that part of like flight and trauma, and we trying to bring people to the frontal cortex to really be able to deal with what is happening, like full frontal, right? Like no pun intended. But in terms of the community, again, it's really around the asset mapping. We have a tool that we ask community school directors to use. We also ask principals to use it, and they do it in a community aspect, right? It's our assets and needs. I don't know about the needs part, because I'm like, I just feel let's not be deficit minded. So it's this asset tool. And I really think when people begin to map the assets or the resources that they're collecting, you can begin to see that your community is not as much as deficit, and or if there are gaps, let's say, what then is the opportunity to begin to partner or look like collectively across communities. Like New York in and of itself is not even that big, though we know the community is separated. It's not like huge. And so like maybe what's happening in Brownsville can still trickle over to the South Bronx. And in fact, we did that when there were pantries. We sent directors from the Bronx to, if there was a need someplace else in South Brooklyn, to go get the stuff. So I think I accredit it to communities taking up agency, families taking up agency and just giving them the tool. So I just find myself to be the conduit. Like the knowledge is in the room, the knowledge is in the community. So if I can just provide the conduit, that's why I said to God be the glory. Like I provide the conduit and give people the tools and skills they need. They already know it's already there. It's just equipping them. And so I find myself to doing that. And then like, all right, if that's your need, like, let's figure it out. Let's get down, you know what I mean? Grass tops, meeting grassroots and all the above and sort of making that happen. So I think that's kind of the way I've gone about it, is like really equipping, giving tools. And like you said, when you send a resource, it better go right up, you know what I mean, in our resource page. It goes right out in our, you know, our chat, something in real time, so that the communities can actually leverage what they need. So I think that's been like the way to do it, like giving them the tool, letting them set the agency and following through. And yeah, and like accountability is a two-way street. You know what I mean? Like I'm held very accountable. Like it's very like the mayor, city hall, they're like, what are the numbers? How many kids are in summer? Like what's going on with this? I mean, when like, what's the attendance? Who are our missing kids? So if it's going to be like, then we need to be accountable as a community. And so giving the tools and the resources, I think would have been like the biggest, to answer your question, way that we've equipped and empowered folks to do.
Wow, I like that. You got the facts in line. You know, numbers mean a lot, you know, to a lot of people. You know what I mean? And it shows how your job is done and how many people you affect and what you are doing. So I'm glad you got your numbers and know your numbers. My job keep us in line about numbers too, and facts too, and statistics and all kind of things too. But the proof is in the pudding, and it has been proven. So I'm glad you're proving it. I'm proving it too as well. You know what I mean? So, I mean, wow. Oh, my goodness. You also do events. I know you do it for family. You and talk a teeny bit about your event before I let you off the hook.
Oh, my. I can't, Lisa, you tried it. I cannot believe, listen, family out there in the virtual space. So because I curate 300 plus, you know, events, I definitely have a team, right? I would be nothing without my team, my direct reports, my deputy, and everyone that supports. But yeah, there's event planning, and then there's people that do events. I literally have to event plan because I have to backwards design from beginning to end what the learning is going to be, and then create the conditions. So yes, Lisa, when I'm creating them, I want to know from the music to how they enter, to the name badges, to the registration, to your point, to the count, to who's going where in the space, how things are set up to move. And so the events usually are around the learning for family and those that I love. You know, recently we just did what my sister-in-law, her son eloped, and we wanted him to meet his New York family and his new bride. So we planned an entire wedding in our backyard to suit about 45. So yes, that was renting the tables, the chair covers, making sure the linens. But really, I'm about creating the memory. To be honest, like all of that, it looks great. I'll send you the picture. It's beautiful. But it's really, for me, I asked God to like, what's going to be the memory with the family? And so that memory was pouring into a newlywed couple, you know, and helping them to understand like what the sanctity of marriage would be. And then recently our high school graduates, how many know our Black boys, our Black males are not poured into and often marginalized in society? So we said, we're going to do a tournament. So your elder Paris, he did the tournament side, and I just created the memorabilia for everyone to pour in and uplift these two young men that are going off to school and have done amazing work. So it was a tournament. Everybody had t-shirts somewhere around, like, I think one that I sent you was like Proud Auntie. Yes, each one, teach one, Sister Audrey. Yes, absolutely. Like, and so we have to pour into them, because if not, you know, like where are they getting their encouragement from? So yes, I will do family events. And then obviously I have to curate for work, huge events, multi-moving pieces. So that's the other part, including like the professional development end.
I know events can be tough and they can be hard, whether you're doing it for business or personal or even for family, because it takes a lot of planning into it. You're exhausted after it, but you're happy when it goes off beautiful. Yes. And you know, even like, you know, because we do kidney events and all kind of things like that to raise awareness and to put stuff out there and to encourage people. If you had to encourage somebody that maybe want to put their feet or their shoes into the type of job that you do, or climb up the ladder like you do, what would you say to that person?
Wow. I would say, I think, and I believe it's not to be entered lightly, right? In high school, there was a Latin saying, and I always remember, you never know why you learn certain things. When I took Latin, I was like, what am I taking Latin? We had to take Latin or Greek, and in addition, like that was just Midwood's thing, like word etymology. But the idea of filia filaque nuntium ad tempus missum, and I'm forgetting some of it, missum ad tempus. The point of the statement is children are a message you will send to a time you will never see. And, essentially you're pouring into generations. So what more beneficial a job and a calling than to be an educator, right? Mentor of mine, shout out to Principal Rux, he would say, everyone is a teacher. The question is, what are you teaching? When he would begin everyone's a teacher. The question is, what are you teaching? And how are you pouring in? So when you want to do it formally, think about it. I'm always trying to recruit people too. So it's always like, what you need, like I'm always trying to recruit. So like, I would have a dossier. I'm always recruiting people for the field. But, whether you stay 2 years or whether it's a lifetime calling, it is the most beneficial and the hardest thing you probably ever going to do. I mean, I've talked to doctors. Every profession would say what you have to do in a classroom is astronomical because of how you're navigating it. So just enter it, with thoughts, with prayers, but just know you are influencing generations to come, and your obedience influences generations to come. And that's what you're influencing and shaping. You're creating young people for jobs you don't even know what's going to exist. I called Wayfair the other day. There's a whole buyer's department. I'm getting an umbrella for the backyard, and there's somebody telling me how to shop for the base. I was like, that's an actual department. Who would have thought, 10 years ago, there'd be buyers to kind of like curate this experience? Who would have looked at Amazon and thought, what's going on? So I mean, and these are just small isolated situations. You don't know, the children are creating things. I mean, I talk to children in STEM and STEAM every day, telling me about different things like sanitizer things they're doing and their imagination. If we could keep telling them to imagine and to innovate and to be creative, they're going to take it over as well. So you just have to create the conditions and the knowledge is in the room. So that's my advice. Come on over, join us. We welcome you.
Wow, I love it. Now, who would you give a shout out to? Give a shout out to anybody that you would like to give a shout out to just before I end the show. And did I miss anything? Is there any website you would have put up, an email or anything of that? Show a picture, a flyer or anything?
Sure. So I think just for in the car, like I think my family, obviously, like it's extensive. If I go on the Rochford side, it's the Bright side, it's like it. Like I could go on and on. So I have to thank my family. I thank my team back at work, my senior executive director, and all the people that support community schools around the nation. We also want to give a shout out to the Panthers, because if people didn't know, the Black Panthers were the original founders of the community school in Oakland, California. So you should look that video up and you're going to see young people in their 19, 20, 21 doing this collective kind of like community-based schooling and learning. Amazing. So we're not starting anything new. We're just creating, again, the conditions and following trailblazers. But I have to give a shout out to my absolute love of my life, my husband, William Rochford, aka Paris, to many that love him. He's my biggest cheerleader and supporter. When I want to stay in the shadows and the back, he's always pushing me forward and encouraging me. He's my biggest encourager. And together we do this work, tirelessly. And sometimes you almost pour out, you forget to pour into each other. But I either remind him it's time to take a pause, or he reminds me it's time to take a pause, so we can focus on each other. And, we're doing the work. And so I'm always in awe and grateful to him, how much he gives to the community of Brownsville, D23 specifically. Shout out to his superintendents and the superintendents around, and the teachers and educators who are in summer now and ramping up for September before we could start. Like all of that work that he does and that we do collectively, I'm just grateful to be able to do that. And obviously our leadership, in our respective places, again, the Rochfords, all of our archbishops and our family that love on us and continue to pray for us, because it takes a lot of prayer and humility to continue to do this work. So yeah. And in terms of that, I'll get you some things. Like I was looking and mental health to me has also been near and dear, because there's been so many stigmas within the communities of color, just to get the help. So it was like, Let's Talk NYC, the Office of School Health, School Mental Health, the JED Foundation, and I forget what if it's called, the Mayor's Office of Community Mental Health, but there's a few others. Like I'll get you the resources to put up, but that's one that's a self-paced, like a training that you can do, and you get certificates and things after that. I think will be really, really helpful, because again, that amygdala brain, like a lot of us are in trauma and just slowly functioning, and we want to bring ourselves to the that frontal cortex. I think all the rest, there's Camp Vooks, I could say the New York Public Library, but I can get you the listing that we can just get the resources, because summer started and a lot of parents are like, what to do? But I can get you those reading rockets. I mean, there's a ton of things. It's just not in a nice, organized space that I can get you just for if parents and families just want to go on and have some supplemental things. But I think my leaning advice would be really to take the Let's Talk NYC, like take a look and try to really see how we're dealing with our being well to ourselves, right? And especially, being well to yourself. Like that's what I'm going to say, like being in that space. And that takes a lot of courage. And because it's private, I think it's helpful for, people to just do it on their own. And then as we kind of can branch out, we can start to get the other help that we need. Because I imagine, and I can only hypothesize, there's a lot of people suffering in silence, and you don't have to.
No, they don't. And I'm glad you said that and you put it out there. I ain't mad at you. That's what it's all about. And it has to be said and it has to be put out there. And we all do care and we love people and we don't want them to suffer. So I truly thank you for all of your wealth, your health, and your knowledge. I thank you for taking the time to put something out there. Thank you for what you're doing for the community. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm very proud of you. And out in East New York and all through Brooklyn, Rise Up East New York, where I work, we're doing things. So we're partnering with everything and everybody, and your husband is one of them. So, District 23 and 19 and a lot of others. But we do thank you very much for your time, and thank you for what you've said and what you've given. I know it blessed somebody out there. Bless your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Bless you too. Thank you for doing this show and, just giving us a platform to share. We love you and we appreciate you.
Love you too. Thank you. Bye. Well, guys, you heard it. Wasn't she sweet? Wasn't she wonderful? Oh, my goodness. And I just, there's so many people that you want to put on the show or have on the show, and you don't always get the opportunity and chance, and some people won't do it. But I'm glad for the ones that do. I have one question for you tonight and one announcement before I end the show. Let me make it quick. I told Nurse Belcher I would be off on time. Okay. How long have I been doing the Lisa Baxter show? Put your answer in the chat. How long have I been on dialysis? And who in my family is on dialysis? And what of the name of the kidney disease that I have? I think I give you a little homework. All right. I would like to send prayers out to Nina Doula's family, Nina Doula White. She was on my show last month, a longtime good friend, a kidney warrior to make the Noonie hands, and she passed away last week, and our hearts are heavy on it. So keep her family in prayer. Michelle, the whole family, that's her sister who also was on the show. Just bless them all and take care of them all. And if you had a death too, we praying for you. So God bless. I hope I didn't forget anything. Keep looking down. But God bless. And thank you so much, V, for victory. All right. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you. From God our Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. Mwah. Good night. Happy Sunday. Peace. Shando.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah. My girl, and say, this is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 in the kidney one. My girl, and say, this is.
Know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike. Now I gotta roll with ice. Cold, these brothers my guys. Know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike. Now I gotta roll with ice. Ride or die, ride or die, ride or die, ride or die, ride or die.